Welcome to The Detail. I'm your host, Kathy Antunes, and you are watching and listening to The Detail on WSLR 96.5 LPFM in Sarasota. And tonight, this is Tuesday, July 7th at 6 p.m. I am interviewing David Graham, who is a candidate for District 4 for the Sarasota County School Board. I also want to welcome listeners who are going to be listening to this rebroadcast on Sunday, July 12th. This is going to air on WSLR. And of course, you can always watch the replay on YouTube. So David Graham, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being with us. I think I need to add you to the stream. There you are. How are you?
I'm very good, Kathy. Thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being here. And we did make numerous attempts to contact Karen Rose, her campaign. We have not heard back, but Ms. Rose has an open invitation to come and talk with us. Of course, we prefer to have you both on together. So why don't we start off with hearing about you and your background and why you're running.
Thank you very much. I'm a graduate of Riverview High School in 1985, and I have a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration. I've had a 30-year career as a business intelligence and data analyst for government agencies, large and small corporations, and universities. I am a father of 3 boys and a grandparent of 2 kids. I've been a Sarasota resident on and off for my whole life.
So did you grow up here, David?
Yeah, so I grew up over on Siesta Key and also in Sarasota proper. And I attended and graduated Riverview High School right on Proctor Road.
Okay, so you're a product of Sarasota County Schools. And as I said, your opponent is Karen Rose, and she has not gotten back in touch with us. I understand this is not the only time. I believe this has happened at a number of forums. Is it 3, David?
Yeah, unfortunately, 3 forums where she's elected not to come and discuss issues with us.
Okay, well, and I hope we can certainly do another show with Ms. Rose. So Karen, we'd love to have you on to discuss these issues. So let's kick it off with, why are you running, David? What do you want to accomplish?
Fundamentally, there's 3 major issues. The first thing I wanted to share was that I, as an active community member, that I did not like what was happening at the district and the school board last year. And that was the reason I signed up to run. Once that happened, I've identified 3 major issues of why I want to run and what I want to do at the school board. The first thing is that there's a tremendous inequality and equity issue with our 44,000 students. There is a large grade difference, achievement level difference, and reading level difference between our different communities here in Sarasota. And that equity needs to be addressed. Our partners do a fantastic job focusing on this issue, but over the last 10 to 12 years, we've had very little movement closing the achievement gap for our different communities. And we need the school board to work together to give them the vision and the mission to close this gap, working with the new superintendent and our wonderful staff. The second reason I'm running is the 5,700 employees of the school district. They need more. They need a livable wage. They need the tools in the classroom to do their jobs better. They need the support from the board for professional development and for their careers themselves. We need to give them the opportunities to grow and stay with the district. And we need to attract new teachers and new staff to the district too. The last piece of it is the community. I did not feel that the community had a strong voice with the school board last year. I felt that in many cases, our voices were not being heard by the school board members. And as a parent and grandparent and an employee of the school district, That is so important that we have the trust and we listen to our families, our students, and our community. And those are the three reasons I'm running.
Okay, David, I did want to just ask you to clarify, was there a particular issue or is there more than one issue where you felt that parents and the community wasn't being heard?
Yes, Kathy. Last year, as many people were in the community, we had a number of lawsuits and issues related to the sexual harassment suit that occurred last year. During that, a number of different issues and actions came about. One of them was the resignation of the current superintendent and all of those other related pieces. I felt that the communication from the board to the community was sorely lacking. I saw that the policies and procedures as a business professional were not properly in place, properly documented, so that in many cases, although the procedures were attempted to be followed, the procedures were not correct, and people coming from the outside would recognize that. And I felt that that was a root cause of the issues. The last piece of it was the board was not listening to the will of the community. They were resisting a number of 100%, 95% community agreeing on an issue, and they were very resistant to it. And those were the key drivers.
Yeah, I think that did surprise a lot of people. And just to be specific, you're referring to school district employee Sharena Bonner bringing forward a complaint against her immediate supervisor, and that did lead to the resignation of Todd Bowden.
That's correct.
And now we are near the end of the selection of a new superintendent in Sarasota County as a result of that situation. So let's talk a bit about this achievement gap, as it's one of your major goals. I am looking at data about third grade reading level and looking at all students in Sarasota County schools in terms of the reading level. The proficiency is at about 70% for since 2014, 2015 school year. But as you described, there is a significant gap between white students and Black students. In 2014, 2015, 36% of third graders were reading proficiently in our Black student population, 60% proficiency among Hispanic students, and 75% proficiency among white students. Students with disabilities, it was a 32% proficiency rate. So that's about 5 years ago. Bringing it forward to 2018, 2019, the numbers haven't changed that much, but there's some improvement. White students, 79% proficiency. Black students up 9 points to 45%. Hispanic is the same, about 59%. Students with disabilities, 39%. So you're saying that this number, you'd like to see it improved.
Yes, and Kathy, I think it's really important to point out when I'm talking about the achievement gap, you'll notice that the main population, our white student population number increased. So although
Yes.
our Black and Hispanic Latino population numbers also increased, they increased sort of in parallel. So we never really closed the gap.
Well,
as a
actually, I'm
general
going to jump in
population.
because the Hispanic, the Latino community, there's not been any improvement. It's the Black community where there's been improvement and disabilities, but actually with Latin children, no.
That's
No
exactly
improvement.
right. The number's flat. So, you know, it's very funny because when you look at an individual group, even though we may see an increase of, you know, a few points here and there, we have to look at the increase for the entire population. And if both populations go up the same, we haven't really closed the gap at all. And in many of the cases at the numbers you're looking, the gap actually remained flat or even got bigger. And so that's my big concern, because it's very easy for people to say, well, look at our Black students, the numbers went up, X percent. But yes, but the population also went up that percent. So we never really closed that gap.
Yeah, I think what's also very concerning as I look at these numbers is that proficiency in 10th grade. So this is 10th grade. Your white students 5 years ago, 69% proficiency in reading. Black students, 28%. Hispanic, 52%, and students with disabilities, 21%. That's 5 years ago. So now 2018 to 2019, I think that's the most recent data we have. White students are about the same, 71% proficiency in 10th grade. Black students have improved somewhat, 36%. Hispanic actually has gone down a bit, 49%. Students with disabilities, 25%. I think it's pretty shocking to see that Black students in Sarasota County in 10th grade, you're looking at about a third of students overall reading proficiently.
Yes, and that is really why that, for me, this is a number one concern point and a number one focus point. Because when I sit down and explain to families that if a student or child is reading below level, it's not just reading. Their comprehension and reading for their other classes makes it harder. It's hard to do your math homework. It's hard to understand the concepts in your social studies work because you're lacking in your reading skills. Mm-hmm. So not only is the reading very important in itself, but to give you an example, let's say an average student takes 30 minutes to do their homework. If you're 2 levels behind, it's going to take you 2 hours to get through that same amount of work. Well, that causes mental stress, that causes frustration for the student and their family. And it's just a vicious cycle where they don't want to do it because it's taking so long. Therefore, they stop doing it or be resistant to their work. And it's just a very bad path to go down. And it starts at the reading.
Yeah, it's okay. So this actually for me is the kicker. This is very distressing data. And I'm going to transition. I want to talk about this, students with disabilities, and then I want to talk about charter schools, because I think that is really kind of an existential issue for the school board these days. Okay, so these are the numbers for Sarasota County reading proficiency for students with disabilities by ethnicity. So these are learning disabled kids. Maybe they have ADHD, they have a processing issue, a language issue, whatever it is. So they have an individual education program. They have an IEP by law. Reading proficiency among white children with disabilities in 10th grade, 26%. Black students, this is 5 years ago, 8%. Hispanic students, 15%. So, those are really sad numbers. Fast forward now, 2018, 2019, white students are up 3 points, 29%, although in the interim, they actually went down. I mean, this is not a trend going up. It's 1 year. The other years were lower. Black students, 19%. Again, though, it's not really a trend. It's I don't know what accounts for the big jump, but the other years were not better in between 5 years ago and now. Hispanic children, 21% reading proficiency. Again, these are students with disabilities. David, this is heartbreaking data.
It's very, very tough. That's exactly it, Kathy. I do want to give a compliment and all my gratitude for all of our ESE teachers and staff and our wonderful people at Oak Park that do so much for all of our ESE students. Oak Park is our school for our most severely disabled students. That being said, our wonderful partners, the Patterson Foundation, the Education Foundation, and all of our other supporting partnerships have invested thousands of hours and untold amount of money to try to help these situations. We have to come together as a community. reading starts at the home. It needs to be a culture of reading in partnership with the school, in partnership with the student's IEP. Some students in the ESC program have developmental issues where we want to make them as to achieve as many goals as possible within their skill set and within their growth potential. So some of those lower numbers are slightly skewed because of the population, but overall, none of those numbers are satisfactory to me. This is 2020. We have a huge school district with wonderful staff and teachers. We have to do better on this achievement.
Yeah, we do have to do better. So I'd like to transition now into a specific story that I've written about. And this is a young man. He's 17 now. He goes by DJ. That's not his real name. It's to protect his privacy. But this is a young man who's a student in Sarasota County schools. And when he was in 3rd grade, 1 week prior to the FCAT, he was moved. There were a series of meetings, 3 meetings in the space of a week. This young man, who was African American with ADHD and a language processing issue. So he had learning disabilities, but 100 IQ, average intelligence. He was in a standard curriculum, which was appropriate for him with accommodations for his learning disability. 1 week shy of the FCAT, there were 3 meetings held without his mother. And he was moved, his IEP, his individual education program was changed. It was changed he was put in a program called Access Points. Access Points is for children with low IQs who are not expected to be able to live independently. This is essentially a curriculum for mentally retarded or very slow children. And we need that, of course, for that population. But this student didn't fit that criteria. The only thing, there was no change in the classroom or the school. The curriculum changed. And the note that went home to the mother said his assessments would change. So essentially, there was a big change in this young man's curriculum. This boy, he was 8 years old. And the parent had really no idea what was going on. The kicker is that this child remained in Access Points inappropriately for 6 years. In 8th grade, the state was reviewing kids who weren't taking the FCAT and found, along with DJ, over 100 children in Sarasota County who were of normal intelligence, who did not meet the criteria for Access Points, who were taken out of a regular standard curriculum, given this oversimplified curriculum for them, not taking the FCAT. To bring it, the story about DJ, well, I'm going to stop there because, so in 8th grade, when this was known about this student, and actually your opponent, Karen Rose, was the executive director of middle schools at the time. Mike, what happened was, they didn't fix this immediately, okay? He was left in this oversimplified Access Point curriculum in 8th grade for the rest of the year. And he didn't get into a normal curriculum until 9th grade. And then when the school put him in a normal curriculum, they kind of threw him to the wolves. There was no tutoring. There was no remediation. The mother didn't know. He was being inducted in the Junior Honor Society in 8th grade. And his big brother was saying, what's going on? This is a great kid, but the Honor Society doesn't make sense to me. And Sarasota County continued to keep him in that curriculum. So my question really has to do with oversight. And ultimately, the buck ought to stop at the school board, the superintendent, the oversight. Like, I would like to hear Karen Rose talk about this, answer this question too. Because it seems like obviously someone made the decision to put this child in the wrong curriculum. And this bad decision was perpetuated for 6 years. How, as a school board member, are you going to ensure? I'm concerned about the culture. I'm concerned that we have a broken culture when you look at the sexual harassment issue and how that was handled. But with this, bad curriculum decision, and it appears to be to get kids who might not do well on the FCAT, that's what it looks like to me. How, as a school board member, are you going to improve accountability and oversight for children like DJ, children with special needs who obviously aren't hitting their reading proficiency goals? I mean, they're pretty dismal.
Absolutely. So I guess just a couple things to say. I am a current employee of the school district. I am the data management coordinator for our research and analytics group. I have no inside information about this particular case. I am not a school board member yet. So my information is based on people like Kathy and what's publicly available. That being said, at the end of the day, the school board provides vision and mission and oversight of the staff and administration. Now, in any large organization, we have failings. We would aim for perfection, but humans are fallible. It's not that the issue specifically was DJ or any other students were misplaced into a program. The issue was, why was it not identified? Why was it allowed to continue? Why was it not remediated? Who were the staff members that allowed this to happen? And what action and remediation was taken towards these staff members? Because based on my understanding of this case, this was a conscious effort to put these students in this program. And I want to understand the motivation behind these behaviors. Kathy, as you were saying, with a new superintendent and new school board members, we need to crack down and make sure that the communication is crystal clear, that we don't allow these type of behaviors to occur at Sarasota County schools. I meet with teachers and staff, administrators, wonderful people every day, but the leadership comes from the top. We are the elected officials, and we provide that statement of zero tolerance for this type of behavior, zero tolerance for discrimination, bullying, harassment, and we set the tone. When the tone is properly set, the staff and the teachers and the whole team get behind it if they believe in you and they believe in our mission. I believe Sarasota County Schools overall does an excellent job as a school district. But as this case shows, we have a number of serious issues that need to be addressed, working hand in hand with all the school board members. Partisanship has no place on the school board. We have to be 5 people coming from different points of view, working together, communicating to the community, communicating to our teachers and staff, and our students. I think that's one thing that we've been sorely lacking with. We need to make sure that the students hear what we're saying and we listen to what the students have to say. By doing that, we can go ahead and start to reestablish the trust for the entire community.
Yeah, I appreciate that answer, David. And just to kind of bring it up to what's going on presently with this student, when he went to Riverview High School, he quickly realized he couldn't keep up, and he also was a target of bullies. He became depressed. There was actually a suicide attempt here. And in 10th grade, the mother fully got the information about what was really going on. And they requested records. His big brother requested records. It took 90 days to get the records. The legal limit's 45. A lawsuit has resulted from this, and the school board has chosen to appeal. They chose to appeal a very clear verdict that they needed to remediate and provide compensatory services. It's also very disturbing that there's evidence of perjury and falsifying documents. So I bring this up because the culture issue, I think, is urgent. And when a student is impacted this way, it's just so key that we make sure that we change the circumstances, of whatever's going on that would lead to it. And this is not the only student that was put in that program. Like I said, over 100 kids with disabilities were put in the wrong curriculum, the overly simplified curriculum. And I'm going to transition now to charter schools, because obviously in Sarasota County and in the state of Florida, there is a movement to privatize or use vouchers or have corporate, I'm really talking about corporate charter schools, come in a community and provide education. I've done many shows about this issue. I'm a product of public schools through my undergraduate degree. I was fortunate to be in excellent public schools, and I believe in public education. And I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about the corporate charter school model. Is it something you'd support? Where do you stand on that issue?
Absolutely. And as a product of all public schools and a graduate of Riverview High School here in Sarasota, all my children have attended public schools. I am a staunch supporter for public schools. I am also a supporter for our now 15 publicly chartered charter schools. What I am not a fan of, and I am a staunch opponent of, are privatization vouchers with public funds going to private schools. The reason for this is, number one, there is no accountability, and some schools elect to select their student population. I can use the word soft discrimination in many cases. They can cherry pick the students they want, but they also do not have accountability like we have at the districted public schools. So those two issues alone, with the fact that in many cases, the private school is using the voucher to pay for a for-profit corporation and taking money away from the student and the school to pay for that school, is just bad business. It's bad for the student, it's bad for the family, and it's bad for the general population.
Well, and to speak to specifically special needs children in Sarasota, in the state of Florida, corporate charter schools actually, private schools, don't have the same legal obligation to provide services for special needs children. They are exempt from that. And so a lot of parents of children with individual education plans describe being shocked and upset when they realize that their child is rejected for matriculation in a charter school because they have an IEP and the school can't meet the criteria for the IEP.
That's exactly right. And that's where I sort of say it's a soft discrimination, because the charter school itself, the private voucher school, doesn't have the support services that our district has. With the scale of economy that we have in the district, we can provide all of the special services needed for any of our special needs students. And the private schools themselves just don't have the scale to afford the additional staff, specialists, school nurses, and all the other support staff necessary to take care of a proper individual educational plan for our students.
So I want to change a bit now. The state has ordered that schools are going to reopen on time in August. This just happened yesterday, I believe. And, toward the reopening, this again has to do with school board oversight versus staff. There's been an order, and I saw on social media, you were asked about this today, the school district has ordered these shields. And I believe we, as a district, have spent about $700,000 on an order for face shields. And yet there's question as to, did the school district get good advice from healthcare providers? Did they coordinate with the Department of Health? It's a lot of money to spend on equipment where maybe you're not quite sure it's the appropriate type of equipment. So again, I'm getting to oversight with staff. That's my first part of the question. And, you know, with COVID-19, we need to make sure that we're doing best for our kids. But I also want your take on the state telling the local communities, which can vary in terms of what's going on with the outbreak of COVID, that we're all going to open up. And what are your thoughts about serving parents in this environment? So the equipment, but then how do we open? And
Absolutely. Yeah. So first of all, I believe that this politically motivated mandate coming from Tallahassee is not science-based. Politics have no place with our children, the school district, or health, period, the end. I believe this mandate to open is not reflective of the different communities, our medical community, our teaching community, our parents here. You know, we definitely have two groups of families. We have one group of families who spoke very clearly that they would like to return to the brick and mortar school for many different reasons. We have a second very large group of parents and students who do not feel comfortable coming back yet due to the COVID virus. Because of that, there's been a number of plans and hundreds of people working very hard every day at the school district to come up with alternatives and plans. Because of the mandate of opening in August, some of these types of things, the shields, the sanitation policies, different types of pieces, there is a large committee that is documented who have been working together to try to come up tactically with a opening plan that helps to reduce the risk for the students and is the healthiest, safest place that we can do today, knowing that this virus number keeps going up. As a candidate for the school board, however, my first priority is the students, the teachers and staff, and our community members. Many people do not feel that a shield or other types of prophylactic instruments are going to stop the spread of the virus when we put the students together. Children, especially our younger students, want to play. They want to interact. They touch each other. They share toys. They move around. Their communication style is constant movement. We all know our children. And a simple shield at a desk is not going to stop any of those types of interactions and potential virus transmissions. That being said, I do want to acknowledge that there's many people at the district working very, very hard on this issue every day. And as a school board candidate and a school board member, I commit I will work 50, 60, 80, 100 hours a week until this crisis is finished. The school board members should be working hand in hand with each other, with the administration and staff so that there's no surprises. We should be communicating to our community, our teachers and our students on a daily basis, and we should not stop until we have a plan that, although not everybody will ever be 100% agreeable to, that we build consensus and we build agreement so that we can move forward together through this terrible pandemic.
Okay, David, thank you. You're listening to The Detail on WSLR 96.5 LPFM in Sarasota, Florida, and WBPV 100.1 LPFM in Bradenton, Florida. Voting by mail Under Florida law, all registered voters are permitted to vote by mail. You're encouraged to consider this option for the August primaries and the November general election, as the situation with COVID-19 may make people hesitant to go to the polls in person. You may request a vote by mail ballot in person, by mail, fax, email, or by phone. Only the voter or a designated member of his or her immediate family or legal guardian can request a vote by mail ballot for the voter. To request your vote by mail ballot in Sarasota County, you can go to sarasotavotes.com or call 941-861-6000. The last day to register to vote for the August primary is Monday, July 20th. And the primary itself, I believe, is August 18th. So
That's right.
yeah, David, back to you. I have two quick questions before you go. Impact fees. Right now, if they're paid, it's 26% of the recommended amount. Developers paying impact fees to support the construction of new schools to serve the developments that they create. What are your thoughts there for school board impact fees?
We're getting a new consultant coming in. It's been a number of years. I've learned a lot over the last 2 weeks about the impact fees and understanding the different inputs into it. I guess I want to clarify my statement and say, I want to make sure that the impact fees are appropriate for 2020 and that the impact fees reflect a fair price to the developers, and I'm anxious to see what those numbers from the consultant are.
Okay, all right. And then last, the property tax referendum, Sarasota County, we every 4 years weigh in on whether we're going to charge ourselves an extra mill on our property tax beyond what the state requires to fund schools. Is that something you support, or are you opposed?
Yeah. I support the referendum 100%. I do want to say that I got called away for a work emergency in 2018 up to the Florida State Supreme Court, and I missed the election. And from now on, I asked for vote by mail to make sure that I never run into that situation again. The referendum is crucial. It brings in about $65 million a year for the school district, and it helps in a number of programs that we do not get funding from the state for.
Okay, David. So to wind up this portion of the program with you, I just want to give you the floor to let people know how to get in touch with you and why should we vote for you?
Well, thank you so much, Kathy, for having me. My website is electdavidagraham.com. And you can obtain my information, my email, my cell phone number is all available for you, my platform, and my major objectives.
Okay.
The reason that I want you to consider voting for me is I've had a 30-year career working in every different department that the school district has, from human resources to operations to security to computers. And I am a 612 eligible business teacher. So I am intimately familiar with all aspects of the school district. I will commit myself to working this school district job for as many hours a week as necessary to properly lead and work together with the school board members on this critical mission we have over the next few years. We have some serious challenges with the COVID crisis and the budget crisis, and this is where my experience will really help the school board. One thing I do want to say real quick is everybody in Sarasota can vote in the August 18th election for school board. It does not matter what district you live in, you get to vote for the school board members.
Excellent. And David, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate you coming, and hopefully Karen Rose will also come on to WSLR and ask, but we appreciate you being here tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you, David. David makes a great point. August 18th, I want to chat with you with this time remaining about a number of different races. And I've got some information updated on some PAC money that I think voters would like to be aware of. It's new data. Charter Review Board Everybody's going to be voting in the Charter Review Board race. The sheriff's race has 2 Republicans running. It's an open primary. So Democrats and Republicans, there are 2 Republican candidates, Kurt Hoffman and, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting the other candidate's name. I want to say Fry, but anyway, Arlene, maybe you can help me out. The second candidate for sheriff. But Democrats are going to be voting, as well as Republicans and NPAs, everybody, on August 18th for sheriff. So a lot of times people think if you don't have a party affiliation, or if you're not a Republican, because this is such a red county, that the August election doesn't matter. It matters. The school board is going to be decided in August. The Charter Review Board is going to be decided in August. The District 1 County Commission primary for Republicans, that's in between Mike Hutchinson and Mike Moran, is going to happen in August. So you need to show up and vote. Everybody needs to show up and vote for the August 18th primary. The last day to register is July 20th. So I want to remind everyone, or let you know about the Charter Review Board if you're unfamiliar. Sarasota County is one of, I believe, 20 counties in the state of Florida that has home rule. What does this mean? We actually have a local constitution. We have a local county charter that was written. It's a We the People type document. It's the Mac Daddy document when it comes to county government. And we are the only county in the state of Florida that has an elected charter review board. There are 3 ways to amend the county charter. One of them is for Sarasota County commissioners to write an amendment and put it on the ballot. The other way is for citizens to gather signatures. Used to be we only needed to get 5% of registered voters to get an amendment on the ballot. And, frankly, because last cycle in 2018, in August, the county commission decided that they should up the number, the percentage from 5 to 10%. They created a charter amendment, put it on the ballot, and honestly, Sarasota voters voted against their own interest. And because I think 10% didn't sound like that much, and it wasn't clear the change, but it's a lot more. It's going from 15,000 signatures to 30,000 signatures. So we've seen how the county commission can put an amendment on the ballot. But the third way is the Charter Review Board. This is actually, it doesn't meet that often, once or twice a year, but they do have a lot of power. And so it behooves us to know who these folks are, who's running. You can get your vote by mail ballot and then take some time to really think about it, because we are very fortunate. A lot of times these races are unopposed for Charter Review Board. That's not the case. We have choices. There are 2 candidates running, I believe, in every district for Charter Review Board. So take the time to take a look at what they do. They do have a lot of influence, and that's an important race for all of us to focus on. But right now, I want to take some remaining time. I'm going to share my screen with you because I've been giving dark money talks in Sarasota. I'm actually working on a booklet that I hope to have ready for you all to look at within a week. And let's see, I want to put up some new PACs that political action committees. So this one is called Florida Country. Hopefully you can see that well. So, I'm sorry, that's Best Plan for Sarasota. Well, we'll start with this one. Okay. Best Plan for Sarasota is started out, there's two PACs in this flow chart, and they're managed by Eric Robinson, who's actually a candidate. He's a sitting school board member, but he's also a candidate. And I'm going to be talking with the District 4. We're having a District 4 school board forum this Thursday. A Better Plan for Sarasota is registered on the Sarasota County Supervisor Elections website. And it's only funded by two people, Mr. Joel Schleicher, who I believe serves on the Southwest Florida Water Management District, and he's also on the Argus Foundation board, or he's a former board member, if not current, of Argus. And then Jonathan Mitchell is a developer, and he's a city resident. And both of these gentlemen have funded a PAC called A Better Plan for Sarasota, which is a PAC registered in Sarasota County. As you can see, and this is the thing for everyone to be aware of, these folks put a lot of money into researching local elections. If you see there's 37 grand that's gone into data targeting research. Oh, I'm sorry. Marlene's telling me, okay. So Florida Country is showing. I apologize. Florida Country, as you can see, getting used to the technology here. Florida Country is a PAC that is registered to the state. And the donors to this particular PAC are Benderson Development, $19,000, John Cannon Homes, $1,000, Gabbard Investment. Jim Gabbard is running for Charter Review Board. He is the gentleman who was wanting to buy the public land next to the celery fields and put a waste transfer facility there. He's donated $5 grand to Florida Country. William Saba has got $5 grand in there. Bill Merrill, he's an attorney for developers, $5 grand. Bo Medred, I believe he represented Jim Gabbard on the celery fields, wanting to put the waste transfer facility. He's got $5 grand in there. Carlos Baruf, it's actually a company of his, TransUnited Development, has put in $2,000, and Madame E. Homes, about $1,600. But there's another LLC, and we've seen this happen before in Sarasota County. This is a Delaware corporation called Zappa, spelled Xapa. In Delaware, there's 2 states in the United States that you can incorporate without with anonymity, without identifying who you are. And Delaware is one of them. So this corporation has put $5,000 in. I wonder who that could be. I see one gentleman who's obviously missing from this group, who's usually there. You all can guess who that might be. But you've got donations to Tommy Gregory's campaign, Nancy Dieter's campaign, and some accounting fees to Mr. Robinson's accounting company. I have gotten information that a flyer has gone out from this PAC in support of Mike Moran. So one of the issues with PAC money, Political Action Committee money, is that the money, the reporting isn't in real time. And we've seen in county races, like when Bridget Ziegler ran in 2014, there was a PAC that Phoenix Media, that it was a corporation donating, didn't do businesses in the state of Florida. So there were all these mailers that came out in support of Ms. Ziegler that were not affiliated with her campaign. And it wasn't until after the campaign was over that there was an understanding of who was behind the funding. And then, of course, there was that corporation that was anonymous. So, nobody knew who was behind the corporation. So at least this time we have some idea with Florida Country mailers. These folks are behind those mailers. And then there's somebody who doesn't want us to know who they are, putting $5,000 in through this Delaware corporation. So if you live in District 1 in the county commission race, and I wondered, there's a campaign in Old Nyaca called Keep the Country Country. And when I saw the name of this PAC and who was funding it, I thought, I bet this is for the District 1 County Commission race. And so I got word that there is a mailer out there, and that is the case. But these PACs will choose names, in this case, it's another Eric Robinson administered PAC. The name choice is to confuse. They choose a name that nobody's going to disagree with. It sounds great, Florida country, but for District 1, where there's a movement where their catchphrase is keep the country country, a PAC like Florida country sounds like, hey, we're on your side. We want to keep the country country. And you got to question that. You got to know who's funding the PAC. What are their interests? Are they really about keeping a rural flavor in Sarasota County? I would suggest that may not be what these folks usually just want to build the same kind of development they're used to building, which is subdivisions, gated subdivisions. So keep your eye out there for Florida country. And now you know who's funding them. And I would like to go back to the other PAC that is called Best Plan for Sarasota. And this, I think, I'm just guessing, and I'm hoping that Best Plan for Sarasota is showing on your screen. It is. Okay. This, again, we're getting back to a PAC that's funded by 2 individuals, putting 50 grand in. I already talked about who they are. Joel Schleicher is on SwiftMud. He's an Argus Foundation board member. Jonathan Mitchell, local developer. They spent a lot of money on research, a lot of money on consulting. And then they have put a donation into another PAC called A Better Plan for Sarasota. And that is about $26,000 that was left over from this 100 grand after all their research. So you may not think local elections matter that much, but there's a population of people out there who care very much and are willing to spend big money on researching local elections. Now, I live in the city of Sarasota, and one of the questions I've been asking all the candidates is about strong mayor. One of the things that I notice is this is an issue that seems to pop up. It's like pandas having babies. Like every 4 years, pandas have a kid. Well, they have their mating season. In Sarasota, the city of Sarasota, it seems like every 4 or 5 years, we've got the question about a strong mayor. So I don't know what this PAC is about, but if I had to guess, I think this looks a lot like a strong mayor. I don't know, but be on the lookout for mailers from Best Plan for Sarasota. That PAC just began in June of 2019. It's not that old, so a year ago. And Best Plan for Sarasota actually dissolved a month ago in March. A Better Plan for Sarasota, I don't have written on here exactly when they began. Actually, I'm going to pull it up because I think I can show you that. I can give you that number. Yeah, it began in March of 2020. So this is a PAC I expect to be active this election season, and be on the lookout for it, if you will. So that's pretty much it for today. I regret that Karen Rose hasn't gotten back to us. One of the other questions I did want to ask Ms. Rose specifically is she ran in 2018 for District 4 for the school board, and now she's running for District 2, and 2 years later. So apparently she's moved. And I think, we have districts for a reason. If you want to have representation throughout the county. So one of my questions is, do you really live in District 2? I mean, did you just get another place, or you're really going to reside here? I think that's fair to ask anyone running, do you actually live in the district that you want to represent? So again, Karen Rose, please join us sometime. I would love to give you the floor, ask you the same kind of questions I've asked David. We would like to hear from you. This is an important time for our schools. So to everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Please do make sure, I'm going to remind you again how to get a vote by mail ballot. that under Florida law, all registered voters are permitted to vote by mail. Voters are encouraged to consider this option for the August primaries and the November general election, as the situation with COVID-19 may make people hesitant to go to the polls in person. You may request a vote by mail ballot in person, by mail, email, fax, or by phone. Only the voter or a designated member of his or her immediate family or a legal guardian can request a vote by mail ballot for the voter. To request a vote by mail ballot in Sarasota County, you can go to sarasotavotes.com or call 941-861-6000. The last day to register to vote in Sarasota County for the August primary is Monday, July 20th. So no excuses. Get out there, register, get either your mail-in ballot. You can vote early, you can vote in person the day of. But the nice thing about a mail-in ballot is you really get to sit down at your leisure and take a look at all these races that matter, and decide who you think is going to do the best job. Make no mistake about it. There are people very focused on our local elections. They matter to the folks who fund PACs. Obviously, there's an interest, their own personal interest. But when it comes to our responsibility to make sure our children are being educated, to make sure our quality of life is maintained, we need to do what we can to understand who's running. So I want to thank you all for spending this time with me. Make sure you get out there and vote. And please listen to the detail on Thursday, July 9th. That's going to be the District 2 candidate forum. And this show is going to be rebroadcast on Sunday, July 12th. We're working on getting you county commission candidates. We'll be talking with them. And so while we're taking this time to slow down and deal with our public health challenge, maybe a silver lining will be that we do have some more bandwidth and time to take a look at our local races. They matter. Thanks so much for being with me. You all have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.